welcome back to The Other Side with your host ASOS. Today we are going to the other side of Oregon. Like always, we're going to be talking about things that may be disturbing for some people, such as suicide, murders, prostitution. So if those are things that are hard for you to swallow, I don't suggest you watch the rest of this because, of course, those topics will be spoken of. So before we get into this haunted trip, I want to know how everybody's holiday season's been going so far. I know we just celebrated the Chinese New Year. Now we're going into February, and we're going to be celebrating Valentine's Day. It's already kind of flying by. So I didn't get a video out because I went to Dallas, and I know I was like, oh, I'm going to be better for 2023. But unfortunately, I went to Dallas, and it was a big mistake. Let me sidetrack before I go into this actual video. I went to Dallas, and it was not a very good trip. I'm not speaking to my family at the current moment because of the trip. And also, we went to a lake house, and the lake house was very much horror movie vibes. It was very creepy. It was not, it was a beautiful place, but it definitely gave me like this should be a horror movie where, you know, the entire family unfortunately gets murdered, and you just sit there and you're just like, well, it's a beautiful lake house. But then it ends in tragedy. I don't know, that's just where my head goes. If it's too gruesome for you, I'm so sorry. That's always where my head goes. I look at a place and I'm like, a murder could have happened here. Like, honestly. Again, it could be gruesome. My mom tells me every single day. So, again, we're into the other side of Oregon. We were in Northern California, and now we are in Oregon. It's fitting that we're making this episode so close to Valentine's Day because Oregon actually became a state on February 14th, 1859. It's the beaver state, and their bird is the western meadowlark. I think that's how you say that. Don't quote me. I don't know. That's how I'm guessing the pronunciation, but then again, my coworkers made fun of me for not being able to pronounce things, so there's that. So their motto is she flies with her own wings. Some interesting facts. Apparently, Portland, Oregon has more breweries than any other city in the world, with 60. At the time of that article, I don't remember when that article was written. I tried looking, but it wasn't very successful. There are over 80 ghost towns, one of which is on Route 6 called Idiotville. It's located in Tillamook County, and it's so remote that people will call you an idiot for working out there. If you don't get it, Idiotville, you're an idiot if you live out there or work out there. Come on, people. Get it together. So now let's get into the haunted locations and mystery spots that you should definitely check out if you go to Oregon. Again, we're going to be talking about suicide, murder, prostitution throughout the video. So please, if that's not your cup of tea, respectfully walk away. We're going to start in Ashland, Oregon, in Lithia Park. It is known as the crown jewel of the town with its forest trails that shine during the autumn season, especially during the leaves turning and that kind of time frame. But at night, it has a reputation for the paranormal that has visitors reporting apparitions of 3 types. There's one that's a pulsating image of a young girl who was killed 100 years ago. The second is a dog-faced boy who lives in the area in 1920 who has disappeared one day under suspicious circumstances. So I'm Indigenous. I think I've mentioned that several times. If you see anything that is not human-like, but you know that it's supposed to be a human, always walk away. Never, ever go near it. This boy did disappear under suspicious circumstances, which, you know, is always just creepy, especially because this is kind of like a forest area, and a lot of people do go missing in the forest. If you did not know that, I did make a video on national parks, and the statistics of people going missing in national parks is just really creepy. The last is a logger who was crushed by a tree with reports of faint whispering songs coming from an old milk jug. Imagine just hearing. That's just creepy. Now we're going to go to Cottage Grove, Oregon. It's a local treasure there as well, but the locals know to leave before dark due to spirits chasing away visitors. Good Lord, I need to say it again. It's a local treasure, but the locals know to leave before dark because the spirits will chase away any visitors after the sun goes down. There's a family cemetery on the ground of colonist David McFarland, who settled the area, and the hill is named after him. In 1920, the hill was discovered to be full of oil by Reverend Olson. After a dig, he disappeared along with investors' money, and the hole remains to this day. So that's really suspicious. This guy says there's oil here, disappears, takes everybody's money, and there's just this hole left there, and they're just like, well, this is a cemetery of a family that used to live here. So I don't know what they did about that, and I wonder how much money he took too. Now, I know I've done a lot of lighthouses, but they're creepy, so here goes another one. Hesiata Head Lighthouse in Florence, Oregon. This is a place you can stay, now it's a bed and breakfast. Guests, they'll report the lighthouse keeper's wife, Rue, whose daughter died. She gives off a perfume smell of flowers, and it imprints their beds for a moment. They can hear her, so she's very much a prevalent spirit throughout the lighthouse. Next, we're going to go to Eugene, Oregon. Eugene Pioneer Cemetery has over 4,000 buried there. Students who use the cemetery as a shortcut reported a woman floating in the fog and a man playing bagpipes. It's said that the best time to visit is when the church bell rings across the street, striking 10 p.m. Listen, if you're waiting for the bagpipes and the church bell to ring while you're walking to that cemetery, you need to get out, because you're getting addicted to a haunted place, and that's never good. Next, we're going to go to the next location in Eugene, Oregon, which is Shelton McMurphy's Johnson's house. Those who work for the museum claim that the Victorian-era house is not haunted, but do express that the lights flicker, hear footsteps, or laughter. The doll room is reported to be the creepiest room, which I agree to. Guests report a strange breeze and dolls toppling over. So, I like this location because the employees are like, no. It's not haunted. Don't worry, it's not haunted. But, we do hear lights. We do hear footsteps, and we see lights flickering, and we hear laughter, and we have dolls that just fly around. But it's not haunted. These people are in denial. Denial. So, if you're in Eugene, Oregon, I definitely recommend these two places. And especially asking those museum people if the place is haunted or not, and watch their reaction and watch their lies just boil over themselves. Drink water. I'm running out of breath. Next, we're going to go to a place I've been dying to talk about because there's so many places named Salem, and normally it's always associated with the Salem witch trials, but this is the state's capital. The origin of the name came from the Europeans' contact with Native Americans who named meant for peace. Salem, Oregon is known as the garden capital of the state. So while you may associate Salem with the Salem witch trials, in Salem, Oregon, they actually associate it with the contact between colonists and indigenous people in a way to commemorate them. Because if you didn't know, there's a lot of places in America that actually are because of words that Native Americans said to colonists, and also things that they experienced between the two groups. So Eleanor's Theater in Salem, it's a 1930s historic landmark known as the finest theater between San Francisco and Portland. During its prime, it saw many stars. However, the theater's owner, George Gunther's daughter, fell to her death at the balcony. Visitors report feeling a close presence of a lost soul or hearing voices. The next place in Salem is the Bush House Museum, the home of Salem's Bush family until 1953, when the home was transformed into a museum because of Ashla Bush's influence on the state's politics and founding editor of the Oregon Statesman. So this house is very much believed to be haunted by the family who doesn't want to leave their home. It's not a museum, so when people go visit, of course the spirits are going to want to play with them. They're going to want to say something to them. And they do make their presence really known to this day. So next we're going to go to Dayton, Oregon, when I was typing up Dayton, it was trying to take me to Florida. And I was like, I don't want to go to Florida. Florida's crazy. And everybody who lives in Florida knows that Florida's crazy. Like, I think Texas is crazy. Florida, you on a whole nother level. I'm running out of breath. Lafayette Pioneer Cemetery in Dayton, Oregon. The cemetery is believed to be haunted by two women, one of which is Anna Maple, whose son Richard was hung in November for the murder and dismemberment of David Croker, a local businessman. There are those who believe that Anna helped, but she was never charged. But she was present during the hanging, and she screamed that the town would burn, and indeed, the town did burn twice. Not once. Twice. 2 times. So, is she a witch? That's going to be my question I'm going to leave you with. The other is Lena Ellis Looms. She committed suicide in her home by drinking carbon acid, and it's the site of now a winery. They say that you know when she's around because you smell flowers or perfume followed by footsteps. Both women are allegedly spotted on the cemetery grounds. Now, only one of these women is buried there, actually, so that's why they believe that she haunts that area and the winery, but the other one's not buried there. She was buried somewhere else. I would like to haunt a winery, though. I think that that's a great time, if you ask me personally. I would like to either be haunted at a winery or anywhere that has margaritas. Either or. I would be happy in the afterlife. I truly would. Okay, so next we're going to go to Wilsonville, Oregon. The Dutchman State Hospital. I don't know if I'm saying that right either, honestly. You're probably going to be like, that's not how you say anything. I'll be like, oh well. It opened in 1960. It was named after the most famous mental health doctor in the state. It was used until the state chose to build a women's state prison. However, the new prison was only miles from a suburban neighborhood, which resulted in protests, which led to the building of more houses instead. Visitors to the site report orbs hearing the lost patients on the ground of the hospital that once was. There's also rumors that there's bodies buried there and everything like that, so the land is definitely not somewhere that you want to have built houses on. I think the prison probably would have been a better idea. Or just leave it alone. You know? That's my person. So now we're going to go to Portland, Oregon. My sister lives in Portland, Oregon. I really want to visit it. There are several places in Portland, Oregon that you can go visit. I'm just going to name 4. But I feel like that's probably one of the best places to go to in Oregon, even though those small places are still just as beautiful. But I would love to go to Portland. The Shanghai Tunnels is a series of passageways that will lead the Chinatown district to the Willamette River. The legend about the tunnels was that they were used to kidnap sailors for their liquors, but it was used for gambling and opium parlors. You can tour these tunnels today. So these tunnels were really ways for Chinese immigrants to basically hide from society, who was often very discriminatory and very negative and hateful towards them. They used these opium dens to kind of hide, and these tunnels to just be able to be themselves and travel between places without having to be discriminated on. There's lots of places that had Chinese and they had Chinatowns, or they had tunnels to basically have for themselves, because it was very hard for them. When we were talking about Sacramento and San Francisco, those were 2 places also where they were heavily populated and where they were heavily discriminated against. So next we're going to the Roseland Theater in Portland, Oregon. It dates back to 1922, starting off as the Apostle Faith Church. It changed in 1980 as a place to perform. So a place to worship to a place to perform. Cheers. A tragedy struck when the Publicist Nation was found after a show dead. There are many reports of paranormal activities with angry whispers throughout the halls. So, it's funny. It went from a church to a very haunted and very spooky location. The Pickett Mansion. The estate was home to Henry Pickett and his wife Georgina, with their fortune coming from newspapers and the paper industry. The Picketts lived in the estate until their death. In 1960, it was purchased and turned into a museum. The ghosts are reportedly friendly, but will often play tricks with the visitors, which includes opening windows, locking them. Also, there's reports of hearing furniture being moved around. So while they're fun, they're playful, They can be a little kooky. Next. Okay, so this image of this place should scare you alone. When I saw it, I was like, is that real? I just don't believe it. It's called the Lotus Isles Amusement Park in Portland, Oregon. It opened in 1930. It's the biggest amusement park of its kind, but unfortunately, safety equipment was not fully developed, and it resulted in a lot of deaths. One attraction burnt down, and a roller coaster malfunctioned, killing a little boy. The park's popularity was declining, which resulted in the owner becoming depressed and committing suicide. Of course, it isn't in operation today, but it still stands with ghostly coasters and unseen crowds that people can still hear to this day. I really like these like abandoned amusement parks that are like haunted. I think they're really cool. Next, we're going to go to Troutdale, Oregon. Troutdale, Oregon. Oh my god, I don't remember saying this name. McMinn's Edgefield. It was built as a poor farm in 1911, but it also hosted a variety of people as well as sites such as a hospital, laundry facility, and jail. Excuse me. In 1950, it hosted tuberculosis patients, then children with mental illness and elderly patients. The building fell into despair until McMinn's brother bought it and opened the Edgefield Winery in 1900, adding more to the site. Today, it's a spot for concerts, gateways, or a sip wine. There is a presence that lingers there and may contributed to the unmarked graves throughout the property. Again, I love to drink, and for ghosts there, it's just the perfect spot for that. And again, the perfect spot to haunt. I mean, come on, wine, haunting people. I mean, you can't get any better than that. I'm gonna keep saying it. Go haunt a winery when you die. Go haunt a winery. Trust me, you're gonna be liquored up and you're gonna be happy. Like, again, you can't ask for anything better. I please, somebody leave me at a winery when I'm dead. Just spread my ashes. Battery Russell, in Hammond, Oregon is the next place we're going to. It's a military installation. Now, this is an interesting fact because I don't really know this. I'm a really big World War II buff, and I'm a really big, like, World War, history kind of knowledge person. Apparently, this was built during the Civil War era, but it wasn't really used until World War II. There were Japanese that were posted along the Oregon coast. While there is no definite casualty, many people who visit the fort claim to see ghostly soldiers around the battleground. Now, I know that there's like a big Pacific fleet, and there was like a big battle for like all these little islands on the Pacific with Japan. So in World War II, if you don't know, I'm going to sidetrack. In World War II, the U.S. was so badass. Okay, listen, I have a lot of beef with America, but there's one thing we need to give America credit for, okay? They're so badass. Not only were they helping out with defeating Germany and beating Hitler, but they were also dealing with the Pacific freaking fight with Japan. They were like, okay, listen, Hitler, we're dealing with you, but we're also dealing with the Japanese at the current moment, okay? You gotta be patient with us, because they bombed us and we bombed them. Now, we bombed them worse than they bombed us, and we should very much keep apologizing for that. But I mean, they were fighting on two sides of the world constantly, and I think that's just insane that, America did that. I mean, yes, the Pacific Fleet honestly was going to Japan. You gotta give it to Japan. They were kicking our ass in the beginning of that war, and then we came back and we kicked their ass, but we kicked their ass in the wrong way, just saying. So I think it's really crazy that there was Japanese actually really posted along our coast. I mean, I thought it was just in Hawaii. You know what I mean? But no, Japan really hated us. I think they still do. But we won't talk about that. Okay, let's go back to the ghost. Anyways, sidetrack. We're going to go to Bar City, Oregon. Now, these two next locations are kind of like out there. They're not really like on a route. Like if you're going to do like a little tour and like a little road trip. I just put these in there because like if you want to like check out like anywhere else in Oregon, these are two really cool places. So the Geyser Grand Hotel in Baker City, Oregon. The Geyser Grand Hotel opened in 1889, and was known as the Queen City of Mines, giving a nod to the gold rush going on in the region. The construction of the hotel came with technology not yet heard of. An elevator. Ooh, scandal. They've never heard of an elevator before. This place has an elevator. It's freaking wild. Wow. The hotel was bought by mining investor Albert Geyser, and in the early days it was a place for the wealthy. Guests claimed to see a beautiful Victorian woman dressed in a blue gown descending the staircase only to disappear into the wall. There's a little girl who wanders the third floor. There is a ghost known as Annabelle who moves guests' jewelry, eats their food, and don't you dare sit at her spot on the bar because she will pinch you. Don't sit in her spot. The hotel third floor is the most active, with reports of lights flickering, laughter, and staff refusing to go up to the third floor. The hotel basement has a window that opens to the underground tunnels, which were brothels, and gives passage to Chinese immigrants who were not allowed on the streets at night. Like I said, they were very heavily discriminated against. The Hot Lake Hotel in La Grande, Oregon is our next place. It's one of the oldest historic buildings in Oregon, and it dates back to 1864, and unfortunately burnt down in 1934. During World War II, it was the nursing training station, with the hotel changing hands before the hotel became a museum and a spa. In 1979, the Hot Lake Hotel was added to the National Registry of Historical Places. It has a reputation for being one of the most haunted places to visit in Oregon. There are strange figures seen walking the grounds, hearing strange voices and footsteps throughout the building. Damn, we did that in 21 seconds. I don't know how I feel about that, but we did it in 21 seconds. I am out of breath. I am dripping with snot, and I want to go sit on the couch. If you enjoyed this, was The Other Side, hosted by ASOS. We were in Oregon. Now we're going to go to Washington next week. I can talk very, 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 very fast. And my mom hates it. But anyways, I hope you had a good one. I hope you enjoyed. And I hope you have a very wonderful Valentine's Day. And hopefully I can get another video out very soon. That was very much